Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and clicking on the bell for notifications. This is the channel to learn about literature and life. We are going to be looking at another Natalie Goldberg short little essay with my own writing prompt at the end. This is one that I've done with students for the last 15 years off and on. I didn't do this with any of my classes in spring 2025, and I got an email from a student who said she missed the writing, and so I just thought I would throw this up on YouTube, and I think it's just it's one of my favorite little short essays from Natalie Goldberg. And so then at the end, just like in my previous video, at the end I've got a little twist on the end of her essay, and I've got a much more clear writing prompt. So we'll get to that. Again, this is Natalie Goldberg, and this is Talk is the Exercise Ground. Get together with a good friend and tell stories. Tell about the time you had your palm read in Albuquerque, how you sat zazen in a chicken coop in Arroyo Seco, New Mexico with your friend Sassafras, how your mother eats cottage cheese and toast every morning. When you tell your friends stories, you want them to listen. So you make the stories colorful. You might exaggerate, even add a few brilliant white lies. And your friends don't care if it's not all precisely as it was 10 years ago. It is now, and they are entranced. A writing friend once said to me when I met him for lunch, "Tell me the best piece of gossip you've heard in the past month, and if you don't know any, make it up." Grace Paley, a New York short story writer, said, "It is the responsibility of writers to listen to gossip and pass it on. It's the way that all storytellers learn about life." It is good to talk. Do not be ashamed of it. Talk is the exercise ground for writing. It is a way that we learn about communication, what makes people interested, what makes them bored. I laugh with friends and say we are not gossiping cruelly. We are just trying to understand life. And it's true. We should learn to talk not with judgment, greed, or envy, but with compassion, wonder, and amazement. That's one of the most Buddhist things I've heard from Natalie, which is in Buddhism, some of the things that you're doing is thinking about your thoughts, your speech, and your actions and trying to be more ethical with them. And so even with your speech, this is just kind of filtering down, maybe even unconsciously from her. But she says there, learn to talk, not with judgment, greed, or envy, but with compassion, wonder, and amazement, which is just a great way to think about, like, how should you speak and what are the things which you should be even focusing on. Compassion, wonder, and amazement. Anyway, this next paragraph is one of her best paragraphs. I love it. And whenever I read this little short paragraph to students live in class, everybody always listens more intently, just as she describes in the paragraph itself. I remember sitting after a concert in the New French Bar in downtown Minneapolis with a writing friend and telling her about how I became a Buddhist. Because of the intensity of her listening, the story, which I had told many times, took on a great brilliance. I remember the light off the wine glasses, the taste of my chocolate mousse. I knew then that I had to write the story. There was great material in it. And if you think about that little short paragraph there, I think it's just like 4 sentences. You can also tell that this is why Natalie Goldberg would agree with me on this. This is why writing can be a spiritual act. And so that little paragraph right there just shows how, because it's about transcending the ordinary in life, even though she just uses plain old description to explain it, but it signifies something higher and transcendent about our human spirits. So beautiful. Talk is a way that writers can help each other find new direction. Hey, that's great. Have you written about it? That's a good line. I lived here 6 years and can't remember a thing. Not a thing. Write it down and begin a poem with it. Once I came home from a visit in Boston and said to a friend in passing, "Oh, he's crazy about her." The friend was in the process of writing a mystery novel in those days, and she honed in. "How can you tell he was crazy about her? Tell me what actions he did." I laughed. You can't make general statements around writers. They want me not to tell, but to show with incidents. Another friend told me about her father, who left the family suddenly when she was 12 and became a born-again Christian and embezzled money from the churches of 3 states. It was her personal tragedy. I told her it was a great story, and her face lit up. She realized she could transform her life in a new way as material for writing. Talk is a way to warm up for the big game, the hours you spend alone with your pen and notebook. Make a list of the stories you have told over and over. That's a lot of writing to be done. Okay, that's wonderful. So now, as much as I love writing down the bones, what I have done many times with my students in class over the past 15, 20 years is we'll do just a little bit of an excerpt from her book, from Writing Down the Bones, but then I will change the ending so that it's a much more specific writing prompt. So that's what I'm doing here. So let's get into this. And then at the end of this, there's underlined there at the bottom of the page, a nice clear writing prompt. And that is the point of this is to write. I suggest, unless you're a seasoned pro, unless you're somebody who's, read Julia Cameron's books or done Artist's Way or Walking in This World or something, just a 10-minute stream of consciousness entry. That's what I have my students do. That's what my students are required to do. So, prepare yourself for that. You can even think ahead about the prompt at the end, which is going to be who's your best friend in the world. So anyway, in this lesson, in Talk as the Exercise Ground, Natalie Goldberg explains how important it is for us as writers to be more open-minded about the balance of introversion and our writing practice. It's totally normal for serious writers to spend more time alone. If you're working on a big project like a novel, you definitely need to do that. But it's also important to balance our alone time working as writers with this big, beautiful world filled with so many interesting characters. I remember when I had just finished getting my master's in creative writing. I was in the middle of writing a novel, and I moved back to Iowa City after living in southern Mississippi for 2 years. I left graduate school and my teaching assistantship, and within a month found myself managing a hip martini bar in downtown Iowa City. Writing my novel, which had been going well while I was a college TA, did not go downhill. In fact, the change of environment and the bizarre job I found myself in only fueled a more creative turn in the fiction I was writing. What's important that Goldberg emphasizes in this writing lesson is this: it's healthy and normal to be introverted as a writer. That goes without saying. However, it's just as important to revel in our friendships and our conversations in order to have an organic and positive effect on our writing. So then you're going to want to write 10-minute stream of consciousness. If you're any of my former students watching this or just somebody on the internet, remember the rules for journal writing, for stream of consciousness writing that I have my students do and that I got directly from the beginning of Natalie Goldberg's book, Writing Down the Bones. Is the 3 physical rules are: keep your pen moving, don't stop to edit, don't cross things out, don't erase things. It's better to use a pen. So keep your pen moving the whole time. And then she has other rules too, which are more like emotional rules. Go for the jugular. If something comes up in your writing that is scary or naked, go for that. So allow yourself to go off and digress, but keep that pen moving. So wonderful. And if you need to refresh on those things, there's a longer video I have which explains all of those things. Which will link from this video. Anyway, hopefully you already know about that. And so the stream of consciousness writing prompt is very simple. Let's go for 10 minutes. Very simple. Who is your best friend in the world, and why do you enjoy opening up to them? Awesome. So I think I'll probably be putting up another video or 2 in summer, maybe based from Natalie Goldberg's ideas, or maybe I'll branch out a little bit and do some other nonfiction writers, maybe even Elizabeth Wurtzel. So anyway, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Please consider sharing, liking, subscribing for more videos on literature and life.